Can anyone hear me? Am I appearing on screens? Let me know if you can see me and if you can hear me. Hopefully the camera is all set up fine. Put it on. These are completely different filters from what I saw before, so bear with me. What's going on there then? Oh well, hello everyone. Hope you're all well. Hope you all enjoyed the Halloween apocalypse. So much happened in that episode. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. So message away in the chat your thoughts on the episode. Thank you to everyone that's commented so far and left messages. I probably won't have time to go through them all, I'm afraid, but I'll try to go through as many as I can. Right. If you haven't already done so, there's a poll. There should be a poll at the top of the page if you scroll up. And you can answer whether you loved the episode, liked it, have no idea what you made of it, or if you didn't like it, but have a funny feeling most of the fandom liked the episode. I will quickly stop looking at myself on the laptop. We don't want to be too vain. Yeah, so while you're messaging away your thoughts, I will very quickly try to summarize what I made of the episode. Like I said, a lot happened and I have no idea where to begin. But in essence, I really liked it. I definitely liked it more than the Series 11 opener. Not sure if I prefer it to Spyfall yet, but it was definitely exciting. There was a massive cliffhanger at the end of the whole universe ending. But as we all know, it hasn't really ended because we've got the rest of the series to come. I guess, just trying to think how to articulate everything. It's hard to review this episode because a lot of it was set up. There were so many characters being introduced, so many monsters, and it's clear from this one episode that the whole thing is this big story that Chibnall was promising. So we can't really review the episode, but there is a lot we can discuss. Obviously, we saw the Sontarans, the Weeping Angels made an appearance. We were introduced to the Swarm. And that's something I wanted to ask you guys, actually. That second being that we saw, you know, the one that was hidden beneath that actress, and then she said thank you and then turned into a similar creature. Are they called Ravagers? Is Swarm the name of the species, or is that the name of the male version of that creature? I have absolutely no idea. If any of you guys know, let me know, or if you've got a guess. Yeah, let's have a quick look at what the chat is saying. Sir 4, they are Ravagers. Yes, Swarm is the guy's name. Thank you. Yeah, I thought as much. Yeah, so let's quickly chat about these Ravagers and Swarm then. So it seems the Swarm person, at least, has a history with the Doctor. I'm presuming it's a history with the fugitive Doctor, because I think in the first scene that you saw the Swarm, he mentioned the Division. And if you remember last season with Fugitive of the Jadoon, they mentioned the Division, and that's what the fugitive Doctor seems to be associated with. So he seems to be an enemy of the Division, it seems. Those two women that came over to check on his prison, I think they were working for the Division. And somehow he broke free. We don't know how yet. Hopefully that's explained. And then he killed them both. I don't know how he killed them. I don't know whether it's just magical powers where he can control people's atoms and make them disperse. Or I think in the case of one of the people, he touched them at least. So I don't know if it's like a virus where he has to touch them. But either way, that was quite scary, just seeing several people completely disintegrate into nothing. I think he's going to be a good threat throughout the series. But yeah, that scene where he did the whole psychic projection and brought the Doctor into it and said, we have a history, I know you, but you don't know me. That is so intriguing. Obviously, we're going to get answers by the end of the series. But for now, all we can do is theorise. If you have any idea who this swarm person is in relation to the Doctor, do let me know. I don't know what my theory is for him. No, I've got no ideas at the moment, to be honest. So if you guys have any ideas, do let me know. I did try to make some notes of various things I wanted to discuss, but so much went on in the episode and there's so much I want to talk about, I can't really bring a structure to this. So apologies if this is a bit of a mismatch. Right, let's see what you guys are saying. I'll scroll all the way to the top and we'll just work from there. We'll just go through the messages and I'll say my views. TM Martin, hello, lovely to see you. What is up with Claire? I want to watch Flux again. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch the episode straight after I finish this live stream. I'm going to go back and watch it again. But yes, Claire. Now, I was very fascinated by her. Let me just turn off the chat quickly. Yes, who the hell is Claire? That's what I want to know. Forget everyone else, forget the swarm, forget Dan's wannabe girlfriend, Diane. Claire is one of the characters that I'm most intrigued by because she knows the Doctor, and it seems Yaz as well, but they don't know her. So we've got a timey-wimey meeting in the wrong order thing going. And I don't know, the vibe I got from her first scene is that she may have been sent back in time by the Weeping Angels already. So it's especially intriguing that, as we saw in the episode, she then gets sent back when she's trying to get into her house. So I don't know if that's the second time she's been sent back or the first. That remains to be seen. And also we don't know where she's been sent back yet. Hopefully we find out next episode because, like I said, I'm really fascinated by the character and how she knows the Doctor. But yes, I did briefly go on Twitter, and one of the first things I saw was a theory from someone suggesting that she could be Clara or a Clara variant. And that's an interesting idea. I mean, the name Claire, that's quite similar to Clara. And I think the actress playing Claire has a similar accent to Jenna Coleman as well. So that's a potential idea. But again, I have no idea. Chibnall is setting up all of these intriguing questions, and maybe it's just me not being very creative, but I haven't got many predictions at this stage. It's just lots of things being set up, and I'm just desperate to get the answers straight away. Obviously, we're not going to get all of the answers until the end of the series, but as long as we get little teasers throughout, that should be fine. But yeah, if any of you guys have any theories for who Claire is, do let me know. So that's a brief bit about Claire. Oh, and there we go. Sir 4 suggested a similar thing to me. I think that was likely her second zap. Yep, great minds think alike, Sir 4. Then there's my message. Funtime Foxy, the Weeping Angel is hunting her specifically. Yeah, see, that's something else. There was only one Weeping Angel in this episode. Is that relevant? Or is that just because that's all the budget allowed? I don't know. But yeah, it did look like it was only after her. Like she was walking home and we had that brilliant and beautiful shot of the Weeping Angel just stood there in the middle of the street. Love that. That was so atmospheric. And yeah, it looked like it was only after her. So what has Claire done to make the Weeping Angels come after her? Alison Kotuk, sorry if I've mispronounced your name. I think there'll be a full Angel episode. Yes, me too. And if there isn't, I'll be very disappointed, to be honest. We all love the Weeping Angels, and we'd love to have a good episode that focuses mainly on them again. But I'm pretty sure we will have an episode that's mainly focused on the Angels. I'm basing this purely off that single shot from the trailer, the shot where it's lots of Weeping Angels all outside a house. Obviously, that could just be a minor scene in an episode, but I'm praying that that is a sign that we get an episode that's all about them. And I think some people have suggested it could be an episode where Yaz and Dan are separated from the Doctor. If so, that would be really cool to see. Alison Kotuk again. Maybe the future Doctor comes to the past Claire and she meets the Angels. Future Doctor comes to past Claire. Yeah, I think that's implied, to be honest. So I think later on in the series, the Doctor and Yaz will meet Claire before she meets them in this episode, if that makes sense. That bit is self-explanatory, but it's just whether Claire has already seen the Weeping Angels, why she already knows them, why they're meeting in the wrong order. It's things like that which we don't know at this stage. Funtime Foxy has brought up the good point about what's going on in the 1820s version of Liverpool. Yeah, yet again, it's another question that's been raised and another character that's been introduced. So I looked at the credits, and that guy with the beard and whatever it's called when you've got sideburns. I don't know why I forgot the name of sideburns there. Yeah, I think he was playing a famous historical figure. And just give me a second because I made a note of it somewhere. I think it's Joseph Williamson. I didn't get a chance to look into him. If I had more time before setting this up, I would have looked into it. But I think he had something to do with Liverpool's tunnels. Do let me know, guys, if you know any more on that than I do. Yeah, so again, it's another question that's been raised. Why is Joseph Williamson involved in this? Obviously, tunnels, assuming he's got something to do with that. Tunnels comes into play somehow, but how? God knows. And obviously it does matter because that was one of the first scenes in the episode. We had the really exciting pre-titles bit of the Doctor and Yaz. Love that, by the way. Brilliant way to kick off the series, having them upside down. Few jokes were tossed about. We had the action as well of them escaping and going into the Tardis. Well, falling into the Tardis, I should say. And then I love that bit right before the titles kick in, where the Doctor slams the lever down and has got like a really determined look on her face. I just thought, yes, I am so happy that Doctor Who is back. And also I'm glad that the pre-titles seems to be back. Hopefully, Chibnall keeps this up for the remainder of the series. But at the very least, I'm glad that the series kicked off with the pre-titles. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about 1820s Liverpool. Yeah, so right after that pre-title scene, we had quite a long sequence of this Joseph Williamson character being introduced and having a conversation with someone else. To be honest, I've completely forgotten what that conversation was now because so much happened after that scene. But it's clear that this guy is going to be important. Diane with Swarm and the sister seems like a whole plot of an episode. Yep, it did. And that's yet another thing to discuss. That second Ravager creature, I think she's called Azure. Why was she undercover in the Arctic Circle? What she got to do with the Swarm character? And has she met the Doctor before? No idea. So many questions being asked in this one episode. And yeah, there we go. As Funtime Foxy said, so much being set up. Right, I'll try and scroll through a bit quicker. I don't know why the camera keeps zooming in and out. Yes, that's a good point from Alison. It wasn't stuffed with too much exposition. Exposition is a huge problem that the Chibnall era has had so far, and I don't know about you guys, but this episode at least seemed to have a lot less of that. Although having said that, I did notice in one scene at least, it was a scene where Swarm breaks free of the little, thing he was stuck in. And I think as he's breaking free, one of the women that's meant to be guarding him said something like, all the defences are breaking down, or something along those lines. And it was fairly obvious from the visuals that that's what was happening. So I could have done without that line, to be honest. But that's the only thing that I picked up on. So it definitely seemed like there was a lot less exposition. And it helped that Ryan wasn't there as well. He seemed to be the character that always stated the obvious. So it's probably for the best that he's gone now. Yep, let's talk about Dan quickly. So Alison mentioned Dan. She likes him as a character. He's kind and funny. Yep, I thought the same. I definitely prefer him to Ryan. I didn't mind Ryan, but as I literally just said, one of my issues with him was how often he just stated the obvious. Whereas Dan doesn't seem to be doing that. He seems to be very similar to Graham in that he's middle-aged, played by a comedian, making a few jokes here and there. Obviously, as the series progresses, we'll get to know him a bit more. But that's something that I was surprised at, actually. Considering this was his introduction episode, he had a lot less screen time than I thought he would have. And I know that's just because so much was being set up. But it's a shame in a way that he couldn't have been introduced in a previous episode. Because I don't know about you guys, but I know hardly anything about the character at the moment. I know that he fancies that Diane lady. I know that he's a plumber. We all know that from the interview that John Bishop gave. He loves Liverpool. But besides that, I don't think we know much about his character. And, normally when we have an introduction episode to a companion, we learn a lot about them. The plot is focused on them. And I guess the plot was focused on Dan to an extent, because obviously we had Karvanista kidnapping him, and a lot of the episode was about the Doctor and Yaz trying to rescue him. But that was quite small scale compared to the bigger thing of the Flux. So that was a bit of a shame. Let's see what else. Politico Coffee thought Dan might be a former footballer. I don't think that, to be honest. I think he's just a plumber who likes football. And Sir 4 agrees. Geek Rambles. Oh my god, guys. Can't get over how good that was. Yep, I was the same as you, Geek Rambles. I thought that was a really good episode. I'm not sure if I would say I love it yet. I certainly really liked it, but I think I need to rewatch it before I decide whether I loved it. And obviously, I need to watch the full series, because if all of these questions don't get answered by episode 6, that will drag this episode down in quality. Funtime Foxy thought it was one of Chibnall's best. Yeah, I would agree with that, I think. Just trying to think off the top of my head what I think his best episodes are. I think Spyfall is up there. I rewatched it a few weeks ago and I much preferred it second time around compared to when I first watched it on broadcast. The Woman Who Fell to Earth is another good episode. I think he's good at doing series openers, but it's the finales where things come crashing down a lot of the time. Hopefully, this doesn't happen with Doctor Who Flux, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Clash Panda, who were the couple in the Arctic? That was confusing. Yeah, it was confusing to me as well, Clash Panda. So, I think I said this before. As we saw, the lady was the Swarm's sister, and it seemed very similar to Fugitive of the Jadoon, actually. The whole thing of someone being undercover, an alien pretending to be a human. Hopefully, Chibnall isn't just reusing the same ideas. But I think that was just a minor thing, to be honest. That was just establishing that this Azure character, Azure or is it Azure? I don't know. Just establishing that she's been undercover and somehow her brother found her. I don't really get how the boyfriend or husband of Azure died, because I actually quickly rewatched that scene before starting this live stream, and I thought I thought Swarm might have touched the lamp before the boyfriend slash husband did, but he was nowhere near it. So I don't really know why the lamp randomly made this boyfriend husband character disintegrate, but maybe it goes back to what I was saying before. It looks like Swarm might have this ability to just make anything disintegrate if he just looks at it. He doesn't have to touch it. I don't know. Angel of Rock has brought up the Weeping Angels. I'm hoping they have their own story and episode. Yeah, like I said before, I hope exactly the same. It'll be brilliant to have another Weeping Angel focused episode again, seeing as it's been about 9 years since we last had that. Politico Coffee thought Flux was entertaining. I liked the beginning, and it left some unanswered questions that kept you going and left you hungry for more. I give it a B. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Like I said before, it is hard to review because it's mainly just setting up the rest of the series, and we won't know how these strands will be paid off until episode 6, theoretically. But yeah, I think it's somewhere in the upper end. It's not quite average. It's definitely better than average, but I wouldn't call it a perfect episode necessarily, because like the plot points aside, it did seem like there was just random scenes. There was a lot of jumping between different characters and different monsters, and I'm not sure if that's particularly good writing. It was entertaining to see all these different characters and all the different monsters, but it didn't exactly flow well together. And I don't know what Chibnall could have done better or differently. Maybe he could have had less of that. Maybe. See, it's hard because I don't know how Chibnall is going to use all of these characters and monsters. But, like, for instance, we've got 2 female characters that have a mystery surrounding them. We've got Dan's wannabe girlfriend, Diane, who was lured into this haunted house and then was sent back to a quarry, it looked like. And then obviously we've got Claire as well, who obviously I said I'm really intrigued by. She's met the Doctor and Yaz before and seems to have a history with the Weeping Angels, or has done something to upset them. And I don't know, although I'm intrigued by both characters, there might have been a way of maybe moving one of those characters to a future episode, or rewriting things so that Claire and Diane are the same character. Because it just feels like we've got 2 characters that have been introduced not in the same way, but we met both of them in Liverpool. They've both encountered aliens, and they've both actually they're very similar. They were both sent somewhere from a house. Now maybe that's a coincidence, or maybe this is all part of Chibnall's master plan. But I don't know. At this point in time, I feel like if Chibnall wanted to have less of the jumping around, he could have got rid of one of those characters, if that makes sense. And similarly with the Sontarans, as much as I loved seeing them in this episode, perhaps he could have saved that for next week, because they were only in that one scene, and I think it was literally just a 2-minute scene establishing that they wanted to use the flux to cause chaos across the universe. And if needs be, Chibnall could have done that at the very end of the episode or in episode 2. Sir 4, how are they going to reverse the flux? Seems pretty powerful. Yep. So the flux, let's have a quick discussion about that. I think it doesn't destroy reality. I think it reshapes it and changes things instead. Because obviously, I think I said this right at the start of the live stream, we know that the Doctor and everyone isn't dead because they're obviously going to appear throughout the rest of the series. So I think instead it probably just sends people into different aspects of time or rewrites time. Maybe that's why it's called the Flux. Big Doctor Who fans like myself, you would remember that flux is the word that's been used, I think it was mainly in the Russell T Davies era, for when time wasn't fixed, when it's movable. So maybe Chibnall used that name deliberately to describe this big event that has changed all of time. But yeah, I've no idea how the Doctor is going to reverse it. Will she reverse it? Or will the universe forever be changed and it's just a matter of the Doctor trying to rebuild the pieces and put things back? I don't know. Angel of Rock, who played the Wookiee creature? It sounded like Peter Kay. Yeah, he's got a similar accent to Peter Kay, but it wasn't him. It was actually the guy who appeared in the promotional video that introduced John Bishop as being the new character. So if you remember that guy that seemed to be Dan's friend, who was on the phone reading out the horoscope, that was the same actor. And to be honest, guys, I did find it funny when people were saying, why is Karvanista's actor playing this dog creature and also Dan's friend? People were trying to make theories over it. I think the honest truth is the BBC had this actor, they wanted to make a promo video for John Bishop, and so they just took him out of the prosthetics and pretended it was Dan's friend. I think that's all there is to the story, and people were reading too much into it. Kevin M has mentioned the Ravagers that appeared in Big Finish. Yes, that is a bit of a shame. Well, assuming they are different creatures, I am slightly disappointed that Chibnall hasn't used the same creatures that were in the recent Ninth Doctor audios. But we could be wrong. Maybe they are linked. Clash Panda is asking, what's the division? No idea. I've just assumed it to be a sector of the Time Lords, possibly going round doing certain things to time. Maybe they're like time assassins. They go throughout the universe killing people or stopping people that will end up doing things that the Time Lords disagree with. Maybe that's what the division is. Literally just made that up on the spot. Had no theories up until this point. Let me know your theories. Thanos zapped them. Yep. It did look like the whole snap effect. I've just realised that. I wonder if Chibnall was inspired by it. Geek Rambles has mentioned the theory about Claire being Clara. It better bloody not be, she said. Yes. No, you know what? I'm going to disagree with you, Geek Rambles. I actually wouldn't mind if it was Clara. Yes, it would be a bit of a shame that they've recast the character, but I love Clara so much that just to have the character back, I'd be delighted with, even if it's played by a different actress. Oh, and Geek Rambles is also not 100% on board with the I know you, but you don't know me. Fair enough. Okay. Politico Coffee thinks Claire could be a relative of Clara, potentially. But I think, if anything, she's more likely to actually be Clara than a relative. I think a relative might not be as exciting. You've got me thinking, though, actually. What if Claire is related to a companion of the Doctor? Not necessarily Clara, but just any companion that we've seen, whether it's the classic series or the new series. That would be interesting. But that still doesn't answer how the Doctor doesn't know Claire, but Claire knows the Doctor and Yaz. My brain's whirring now. I'm trying to come up with all these different ideas who Claire could be. Maybe someone... I don't think it would be Yaz, but maybe Dan. Maybe Dan has a kid with Diane, and that kid ends up being Claire. I don't know how satisfying that would end up being, but it's an idea, at least. Oh, hello, George. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're still here. Only just joined the stream. I hope you loved the episode. What a fantastic setup. Love the serialized nature of this series. Can't wait to find out more. Yeah, I'm exactly the same, George. I'm glad you liked the episode as well. Hope you're keeping well as well. Funtime Foxy, Joseph Williamson retired in 1818, so it doesn't make sense to be him. What year was the opening scene set in? Because I'm pretty sure it is Joseph Williamson. I swear the credits said it was him. So maybe it's the episode's trying to say what he did after he retired and before he died. Angel of Rock wasn't a big fan of Ryan. Ryan was so boring, they said. Oh, wow. Bold statement. Daniel is already my favourite 13th Doctor companion. I wouldn't say that myself at the moment. We've barely got to know him, but that's brilliant if you do know him. But that has reminded me, actually, very quickly, I wanted to talk about Yasmin Khan. Because I bloody loved her this episode. I just found the whole dynamic between the Doctor and Yaz was so much better, it being just the two of them, than having, you know, Ryan and Graham with them. And in a way, I can't believe I'm saying this, in a way, I'm slightly disappointed that Dan will join them as a trio, because those scenes of it just being the Doctor and Yaz in this episode, I thought were so good. Off the top of my head, that scene in the Tardis where Yaz is calling out the Doctor for keeping secrets, bloody love that. I don't know how to articulate it, but I guess my point is I miss there being just one companion, because as soon as you have one companion, all of the non-Doctor stuff goes to that one character. And the problem that the Chibnall era has had so far, with it having 3 companions, that companion role has had to split between 3 people. And it's slightly better now, I guess, because we're only going to have a trilogy. But I'm just slightly upset because Mandip Gill did so well in this episode, being practically the main, well, the sole companion until they get Dan out of that cage. And she just really held her own. She demonstrated that the series absolutely would have worked with her being the only companion. So it is a bit of a shame that Chibnall has felt the need to introduce a second companion to this. I do like Dan, like I said before, but there is that niggling feeling in the back of my mind that I think I would have been a lot happier if Mandip was the only companion for the rest of this series, and actually the rest of Jodie Whittaker's time as the Doctor. But no, at the very least, at least for most of this episode, you could argue that Yaz was the only companion. So if all else fails, we can say we've had one episode where the 13th Doctor has only had one companion, but I would like more. Mandip did so well. Oh, that's annoying. The chat, I've skipped all the way to the bottom, so I've missed a lot of messages. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys. Sorry if everything's a bit jumping all over the place. That's partly because of the episode itself. So much happened that I don't know where to begin. And partly it's because it's been ages since I've done a live stream. So I'm trying to get back into the swing of it. But I hope you're enjoying this. If you are, please do give this video a like and join in the conversation, because I would love to hear your thoughts. Control hype wall. Can we just mention how the Doctor mentioned how she was Scottish when she set up the handcuffs? Nice throwback. Yes, and that is something I completely forgot about, actually. I freaking loved the 13th Doctor doing an impression of the 12th Doctor. That was brilliant. I don't know how good the Scottish impression was, but I found it funny at least. So it had the desired effect on me. Same with Geek Rambles. She liked that as well. Yeah, that really took me by surprise and I really liked it. The TARDIS. We haven't even talked about the TARDIS yet. Thank you for bringing it up, Funtime Foxy. Yes, the TARDIS is dying. Wow. So all those rumours that people... I think there was quite a few rumours going around before the episode aired that the TARDIS was dying. And there certainly was a lot more rumours and predictions after that photo was released of the black goo seeping down it. Doctor Who fans are they're so clever. Like, I saw the image, hopefully you know the image I'm on about, the one of the many images of the Doctor. Was it before the picture came out of the Doctor with the hammer? Yes, because I think it was earlier this week. It was some picture of the Doctor and Yaz, at least, round the TARDIS console. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's a nice picture. But a few people on Twitter picked up on the fact that if you looked very carefully on the crystal pillars of the TARDIS, you could see a black goo seeping down. And I completely missed that when I saw the image. I was just like, great, it's nice to have a nice photo of the Doctor in the TARDIS. But people actually correctly predicted that the TARDIS was dying. So why is the TARDIS dying? That's what I want to know. Is it to do with the flux? Or is it because it's old? Whatever the reason, I really hope Chibnall doesn't completely get rid of it by the end of his tenure. He's already broke canon in one aspect, and so he shouldn't mess with the TARDIS too much. I guess we'll have to wait and see, really. But I'm certainly intrigued by this whole development of the TARDIS falling into disrepair and breaking down. And actually, I really liked... one of the things I liked about this episode was how the door ended up moving positions. And there was that bit where, I think it's the first time Dan goes into the TARDIS. For once, we don't have a companion go in through the normal door. He actually comes out of the floor, which was quite funny. Reminded me of Flatline, in a way. Brilliant episode. Yeah, so the TARDIS is dying. Let me know why you think that is. Do you think it's to do with the flux, or do you think it's a completely unrelated matter? Personally, I think it's not to do with the flux. I'd like it to be caused by that, but I think Chibnall is potentially creating a storyline where he's saying that the TARDIS is so old now that it's just falling apart. I think that's what he's going for. Because if I remember correctly, even before the Doctor found out about the flux, she noticed that the TARDIS wasn't working as it was meant to. So I do think they might be unrelated. Got to scroll up again. Can't remember where I got to, and I have no idea what the time is. Oh wow, nearly 9 o'clock already. Sorry, bear with. I'm just trying to find where I got to in the chat. Clash Panda was keeping track of how much the Sonic was used. It wasn't too bad, better than we've previously seen in the last couple of series. Brilliant. I wasn't looking out for the Sonic myself, but I'm glad that it wasn't used as much because it was being overused, let's face it. Control hype wall. Did anyone else notice that Dan pointed out that he had a friend that had a bigger TARDIS? Could be a master reference. Interesting. Yes, I'm going to have to rewatch that scene because it happened so quickly that after he said it, I was like, wait, what? And obviously, you can't rewind an episode when it's live. Well, you can, but you just upset the rest of your family and friends that way. I think that was more a joke. I don't know what joke he was making, but I'm just trying to think back to what I can remember him saying. I think that was just a reference to a friend that's got a big house. I don't think there's anything to read into that, to be honest. TM Martin, what did you make of Vinder? Yep. Another character that in this 40-minute stream I've yet to bring up because there's so much that went down. Yeah, so Vinder didn't have that much screen time in this episode, so it is hard to form too much of an opinion about him. But my very first reaction when we were introduced to him in this observation deck in space, it reminded me a lot of Captain Jack's first scene in The Empty Child. And that's a good sign because I bloody love Captain Jack, one of my favourite characters in all of Doctor Who. So to have a character that's similar to Captain Jack, I'm all open for. But yeah, besides that, I don't really know what to say about him, to be honest. He seems like a nice guy. He doesn't seem to be a villain, which is what some people thought he might be beforehand. So it's nice that the Doctor seems to have another friend, unless Vinder changes side halfway through the series. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, all he really did in this episode was keep a log of the area of space that he was watching over. He then saw the flux and then evacuated the space station. That's all he did, really. So, no doubt we'll see more of him throughout the rest of the series, but at this moment in time, that's all I can say about him, really. Similar to Captain Jack, likeable enough, seems to be good at acting. That's always a good sign. Sometimes Doctor Who does have some iffy actors, so it's nice that Jacob Anderson is quite good at acting. Hello to Patrick and hello to Philip. Nice to see you both, if you're still here. Politico Coffee, anyone feeling a little overwhelmed by everything going on in Flux? It was a bit exhausting and confusing, methinks. Yes, that is true. As much as I enjoyed the episode, as I keep saying, loads happened. It's a bit of a whirlwind to get your head around. And I've got to be honest with you guys, I was a bit worried setting up this live stream because, as I said earlier, there's just so much that went on. Even now, I don't know how to give this discussion structure. There's just so many different characters and monsters that we were introduced to. And yeah, it's just more setup than anything. And it is slightly overwhelming, but exciting at the same time. I wasn't bored by the episode. And as long as an episode isn't boring, that's always a good sign. And hopefully you guys weren't bored as well. Geek Rambles, I didn't expect Vinder to be in the first episode. And I was surprised that he had very little to do. But guys, his ship had the name Rose in it. I'm not that much of a Rose fan, but I still thought it was cute. I completely missed that, Geek Rambles. It had the name Rose in it. Yeah, didn't spot that at all. Good spot. Doctor Who Memories, hello, nice to see you. Are you sad to see Chibnall going after this series? Do you think Flux was his initial plan? I'll answer the second question first. I don't think Flux was his initial plan. I think maybe aspects of it he planned. So the whole thing with the Ravagers having a history with the Doctor, I think that would have been the series arc for series 13 regardless of it being this serialized story. But I think the Flux event itself, I don't think he planned it. We'll have to wait and see. He might give an interview where he said it was his plan all along. But from the interviews he's given so far, where he's mentioned how COVID has affected what they were planning and how obviously the episode count reduced, I think this is something he came up with on the spot as soon as he found out that they could only do 6 episodes. And in answer to the other question, are you sad to see him go? Can I be completely honest with you guys? I'm not sad to see him go. Although he's written a few good episodes, and I don't think the Chibnall era has been as bad as some people have made out it to be, overall, I haven't really connected with this era as much as I did the Moffat era and the Russell T Davies one. So I am ready for him to go, to be honest. And I wasn't exactly upset when the news broke. And to be honest, I was the same with Jodie. I think she's a great actress and a lovely person and a great ambassador for the show. But up until recently, I hadn't really connected with her Doctor. And I think that's partly down to the writing. So I'm probably breaking quite a few hearts here. I know there's plenty of Jodie fans out there who would have loved Jodie to stay for a whole extra series. But for me personally, I was quite happy for her to keep to the general 3 series and go rule. And yeah, as for Chibnall, like I said, I am ready for him to leave. And I am so excited for the god that is Russell T Davies to come back. Can't wait. But we won't dwell on that too much in this live stream. We've still got a whole year to go of the Chibnall era, so let's celebrate it while it lasts. Kevin M. What if Swarm had already encountered the husband in the past and had already touched him, and that's why he was able to kill him? Good idea, but why would he wait this long to actually disintegrate him? I just feel like that's a bit pointless. But it's a possible explanation. Sir 4, someone on Twitter said that Dan saying we're safe in here after just finding out about a Tardis is a bit sus. Interesting. Could there be more to Dan than meets the eye? I hope not, because we've already had this with Sacha Dhawan's Master last series. I know it wasn't a companion, but it was still someone who was set up to be a friend of the Doctor, who we later find out is the opposite, an arch nemesis. So yeah, I would rather that not be the case, to be honest. Geek Rambles liked the fact that I said sent back to a quarry. Well, it's true. It looked like a quarry. And Doctor Who just loves quarries for some reason. Phil Hawkins, I didn't mind there being so much in this episode as long as the next 4 take just one strand that was set up and focus on that. Looks like it's that way with Sontaran focused episode next week. Yep, I completely agree, Phil. I'm willing to go easy on this episode because it is the start of the series, and normally there is an expectation that the first episode sets up everything. But if any more is set up in episode 2, I'm not going to be happy because there's enough plot strands going on as it is, and the rest of the series really does need to start focusing on specific settings and characters and monsters. And like you said, hopefully next week is going to be mainly focused on the Sontarans. We might get the odd scene showing what other characters are doing. Like, I'm pretty sure we'll see more of Vinder, at least. But in a way, I'm hoping we don't see Claire, we don't see Diane. We probably will see the Ravagers, seeing as they seem to be the big bad of the series. But as long as Chibnall limits the strands that we follow every week, hopefully it should be sustainable. Sir 4 likes the theory that Flux rewrites the timeline. TM Martin, John Bishop is 54 and technically a Gen Xer, while Bradley Walsh is 61 and a baby boomer. So Bishop might take exception to you lumping him into the same category. Yes. Geek Rambles, the division is the Order of Tectean. Is that right? I can't remember, to be honest. Hopefully someone in the chat will be able to answer that. Admittedly, I have not rewatched the Series 12 finale since it aired. My original plan was to rewatch all of Series 12 before tonight's episode aired, but partly because I ran out of time and partly because I got bored, to be honest, I stopped after Orphan 55. But I will carry on at some point. There are a few episodes in Series 12 that I want to revisit. Clash Panda, did you like Karvanista's character? I think the design is really cool, and what the plan was with their spaceships as well feels kind of Starship UK. I like the man's best friend idea. Yep, I completely agree with you, Clash Panda. So, yeah, let's talk about Karvanista. Brilliant design, as you said. And actually, that goes for all of the creatures that we saw in this episode. The Weeping Angels look the same as ever, so I'm glad Chibnall didn't feel the need to change them. He did change the Sontarans, but I think, dare I say it, for the better. Not so much in terms of the face. I think I preferred the Russell T Davies era version of the face. It was a lot less latexy, for want of a better word. I noticed with the main Sontaran in this episode, maybe it was deliberate, but it seemed very puffy around the face. And although you could make out his eyes and mouth and I think nose, it just seemed very lumpy and I don't know, it just looked a bit fake. But in terms of the actual body wear and the armour and actually the skin tone, I'm not racist about Sontarans, but I actually prefer the skin tone and the armour of this new design. I think it harks back to the classic series much more than the purple blue type vibe that the Russell T Davies era one was going for. What did you guys think of the Sontarans? Do you like the new design? Do you prefer what we had before? Were you happy to see Dan Starkey play a Sontaran again? I certainly was. He was almost unrecognisable, actually. He did quite well to make the Sontaran he was playing in tonight's episode completely different from Strax. That's something I was worried about, actually. I was a bit concerned. As soon as I found out that Dan Starkey would be in the episode, a bit of me was slightly worried that he would just play Strax again, but in a different costume and different prosthetics. So I'm glad that he put on a slightly different voice. Geek Rambles, you and I are going to fall out. Sorry. I can't remember what that's referring to, but I'm allowed my own opinion. Opening scene was 1820. Thank you guys for letting me know. Yeah, so like I said before, that whole thing with the Joseph Williamson character, that could easily be set after he retired. And maybe Doctor Who was just fudging history slightly. Clash Panda thought Yaz was great in the episode, like me. She compliments the Doctor very well, and I already missed just those two in the TARDIS. Yeah, exactly like I said. Hopefully we get a few more scenes of it being just the two of them. But now that Dan seems to be a full-time companion, I think that's going to be unlikely, to be honest. I think, if anything, we're going to get more scenes of Dan discovering the universe and going through all the motions of seeing the past, seeing the future, seeing his first alien, although he's already seen that in this episode. But yeah, like I said before, it is a bit of a shame if this is all we'll get of it being just the Doctor and Yaz as the TARDIS team, because I bloody loved it in this episode. They really did work so well together. Geek Rambles agrees. Yaz and 13 had way better chemistry this time around, but I think Dan will be the comic relief that we definitely need. Yes, very good point. Although I'm someone that personally prefers the darker stuff, like that whole scene I mentioned earlier of Yaz criticising the Doctor and saying, "Why are you hiding secrets from me?" I absolutely love that. I love it when the Doctor's character is challenged. But no, it is true. You do need to have a balance of dark stuff and comedy. I just don't want too much comedy. Yaz seems to know how to semi-pilot the Tardis now. I didn't actually pick that up. Fun time, Foxy. I'll have to look out for that. What I did notice, though, is she was a lot more proactive in this episode. Like she single-handedly rescued Dan from that cage, and I don't know how she got him out exactly, but she seemed to know what she was doing. And again, I just really liked how, well, proactive Yaz was. I don't know how else to describe it. She just didn't stand around asking questions in a line like what we had in Series 11 and Series 12. And this is why I'm so glad that Graham and Ryan have gone. As much as I like the characters, I don't think it works having 4 characters in the TARDIS team nowadays. It did work in the classic series when each story was longer and you had, I think there was more episodes back then as well, so it was more time to get to know people. But when you've got less than 10 episodes per series now, it's just not enough time to get to know them and not enough time to give them all something to do. That's what I found, at least. TM Martin, anyone find it hilarious when the 2 landed on a bed inside the TARDIS and also learning the code word was relief, not release, into the handcuffs? Yes, I didn't notice that second point you mentioned about relief instead of release, but landing on the bed, my first thought when I saw that was that a bed that they've both been sleeping in together? And I thought, oh, they are actually going down the Thasmin relationship. So I don't know whether I was disappointed to find that actually it was just a safety cushion. But I did have a moment thinking, oh my God, they've been sharing a bed. This is what has happened since Ryan and Graham have left. I don't know if any of you thought the same, but I don't know how I feel about Thasmin, to be honest. I don't know whether I agree whether I want them to be in a relationship, or if I don't. I don't know. It's something different, and it's been a while since we've had a TARDIS romance. But then I guess an argument could be made that the Doctor should never love her companions. Fair enough that the companions can love her or him, but it shouldn't really be reciprocated. So, but I think I'm going to say it now so that if it turns out to be true, I can be like, I've told you so. I do think Chibnall is planning to make Yaz a lesbian who loves the Doctor. I have no idea where the storyline would go, but I do think there is more than just a friendship there. We'll have to wait and see. TM Martin, in the United States, plumbers can earn quite a lot of money, so poor old Dan isn't just a plumber. Fair enough. Angel of Rock didn't realise that Jodie did a Scottish accent. That was right. I can't speak today. It was right at the start of the episode, Angel of Rock, right when she was trying to escape from the handcuffs. She put on a Capaldi impression to try and get out of it. George T, the CGI in this episode was just off the scale. Would you prefer the budget to be spent on more episodes and international filming, or the same quality of CGI in the future? Very good question, George. Thank you very much. Let me just read the question again. Hand on heart, as much as I love it when the effects are great, I'm someone that would much rather have more Doctor Who than less and a bigger budget. So I actually prefer what we had in the Russell T Davies era, where it was a terrible budget, let's face it. The effects weren't great. I know some of that was because it was the mid-2000s, but compare it to what we have nowadays, it was quite trashy in parts. But yeah, I'd much rather have more episodes and less money per episode than what we've got now of less episodes but more budget for each of them. Because let's put it this way, if we didn't have the longer series and less budget, we wouldn't have got episodes like Blink, we wouldn't have got Midnight, we wouldn't have got Turn Left, we wouldn't have got The Girl Who Waited. I think, this is just my opinion, but Doctor Who's best episodes are often the ones that have the least budget, and it forces the writers to actually think about their plot and their script and make it as brilliant as possible. Whereas I think, and this is a problem with American shows, I don't want to blanket them all under the same banner, but what I found with a lot of American shows, because they have so much money, it's just thrown at each episode, and it's thrown at all the showrunners and actors and writers, and less time is spent on the scripts. That's what I found, at least. But in answer to your question, I personally prefer there being more episodes but less budget. But I'm willing to give this series a go. I am enjoying it, what I've seen so far, but it's just, I know when it gets to episode 6, regardless of whether I've loved the series as a whole or been disappointed by all the plots being resolved, it's going to be disappointing that the whole series was only 6 episodes. And I think a lot of us will feel that way, actually. This series is just going to fly by. We're already a sixth of the way through it already, and the series has only just come back today. But it is true, at least, although it's a shame we've got less episodes, the budget and CGI, like you said, was phenomenal in this episode. And it did look like a movie. Geek Rambles, it was meant to be a bad accent because it sounds the same with any accent. Fair enough. Right, what time is it? Oh wow, we've been going for an hour. Time flies when you're having fun discussing Doctor Who with fellow fans. Thank you for all of your messages, guys. Please keep them coming. I don't know how much longer we'll go for. What I might do quickly, just so that I can have peace of mind, carry on messaging away your thoughts, but I might quickly check my little document that I've made of random streams of consciousness that I've had thinking about the episode. I just want to make sure that I've mentioned all of my thoughts on the episode. So we've talked about the TARDIS dying, and I think I said, is that due to the Flux or something else? My personal opinion is it's something separate from the Flux. I think Chibnall is making out as though the TARDIS is just so old that it's falling apart, but where he takes the storyline next, no idea. And yeah, I said before, it's brilliant that people on Twitter actually worked out from that single image that the TARDIS was dying. I completely missed that. So well done if you were someone that did spot that or had that theory. We spoke about Dan. He didn't have as much screen time as I thought he would have, but he was likeable at least. And personally, I found him quite similar to Graham, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. But I'll give him more time to see if he does branch out into his own character. Yeah, I think I said this right at the start. It's so hard. It's going to be so difficult to review this series because it's all one overarching storyline and you don't know where each character and monster will be taken in the next episode. So I think going forward, these are just going to have to be discussions more than reviews because I can't possibly... I don't know, it feels unfair to say this episode was excellent, this episode was rubbish, because you don't know where everything's going to go unless we have a few standalone episodes in the middle. But but I'm pretty sure we won't. Claire, we spoke about. I said before, and I'll say again, she's one of the questions that I'm most intrigued by in this episode. Just who is she, and how does she know the Doctor, and why are the Weeping Angels after her? And yeah, we said that she could potentially be Clara. That was one thing I saw on Twitter. Yeah, we spoke about the Weeping Angels as well. It's curious that only one Weeping Angel was after, it seemed, just Claire. That was the only one that seemed to be in Liverpool, at least. So, and has it sent her back in time before? The Swarm seems to be the big bad of the series. Has a history with the Doctor, potentially the fugitive Doctor. Certainly has a history with the Division. And I'm pretty sure we'll find out more about the Division as the series progresses. And potentially even in next year's specials, we might find out more about them as well. I love the fact it can just dissolve people. That I find really intimidating and scary. That's something I wanted to say. Just a very quick point. Something I was disappointed by. It was only a minor disappointment. But considering the episode was set and shown on Halloween, I was a bit disappointed that the episode wasn't as scary as I hoped it would be. I know it doesn't have to be scary, but Halloween is the perfect opportunity to scare the audience. And maybe it did scare a few kids here and there. And obviously it was great that the Weeping Angels appeared, at least, because they terrify everyone, kids and adults alike. But I don't know, for me personally, besides when you first meet the Swarm and the bit where he kills the first woman and then makes himself younger, and then he does that really freaky, I think he does like a scream up until the sky, that scared me slightly. And the Weeping Angel scene as well, how could I forget? Yeah, that was scary as well. But they could have upped the scares a bit more, I think. That's just me, that's just my thoughts. But at least you did have a scary villain in the Weeping Angels, and I guess the Ravagers are quite scary. They're scary looking, at least. I just wanted to be terrified. That's what I want. The last time Doctor Who absolutely terrified me, just a little fun anecdote, Sleep No More. I know people hate that episode. I absolutely love it. And one of these days I will make a video explaining why the fandom has got it wrong and it's actually a brilliant episode. But that episode terrified me so much that I could not go to sleep immediately afterwards. Like, the idea was, I was in uni when the episode aired. I went on a night out, missed it live, sadly, came back at like 2 a.m, stuck it on. I thought, it's a family program. I can just unwind to it and then fall asleep. Boy, was I wrong. It absolutely terrified me. And I could not sleep for about an hour afterwards, because that final shot of Rasmussen revealing himself to be a Sandman just freaked me out so much. And even now, actually, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Wow. Yeah, I found that so effective, how he was talking into the camera like I'm doing now. And I think it's the fact that the audience was brought into it as well. How I'm going on a whole sidetrack on a completely different episode now. Bear with me. I'll bring it back to the Halloween apocalypse in a second. I just loved how the whole episode that we were watching, the audience was made part of it. And I'm rubbish at explaining it. We all know the plot of the episode. The idea was that the Sand People ended up being in the audience's brains and we would all become Sandmen. That was such a creepy idea, and I just know if I saw that episode as a kid, I probably would have stopped watching Doctor Who because it was so scary. I'd actually put it on the same level as Midnight and Blink in terms of scariness. It was just brilliant. But anyway, enough about Sleep No More. You don't want to hear about that. I think I asked this point. Oh, no, we did, yeah. Ravagers and Swarm. I think Swarm is the name of the male Ravager, and the Ravager is the name of the species. I think that's the idea of it. Looks like we'll find out more about the division. Said about that as well. I'll just go through the rest of these points really quickly because I want to see your messages again. Karvanista. Yes, I haven't said much about Karvanista. But yeah, I really liked the idea that instead of being something that wants to kidnap humans and eat them or take over the earth, there actually are protectors. I thought that was a really cool idea. And it explains why Chibnall made them look like dogs. Because, as they said in the episode, it's that whole thing of being man's best friend. I thought that was a really cool idea. And just like with all the other creatures we saw in this episode, great design. I just want to stroke the fur on it. Just wanted to reach into the screen. Yeah, so that was cool. Obviously, I said about the Tardis dynamic of the Doctor and Yaz. I really wish the whole series could be just the two of them, if possible, but I'll make do with this one episode. Vinder reminded me of Captain Jack. I said about that. I think we briefly spoke about Diane. So that whole scene towards the end where she was lured into the haunted house and she couldn't control her body, she just walked herself in and told herself not to. That was very strange. And it does seem like the Ravagers have a big plan for her, but what is that plan? No idea. Really liked the pre-titles scene of the Doctor and Yaz being in mortal danger. I love the CGI. I love the banter. I love the Doctor's Scottish impression, well, accent. I love the escape. And I loved that final shot of the Doctor slamming the lever down, setting things in motion for the rest of the series. I thought that was brilliant. Flux, I said about that, it looks like it alters reality rather than destroying it. That's my theory, at least. I think potentially episode 2 will begin by establishing that the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan have ended up in the Crimean War and it sent them back in time instead of destroyed things. But I could be wrong. Said about the Sontarans, I like the design. I prefer the skin colour. Not racist. Hashtag. Shame that the episode wasn't scarier. And we spoke about Joseph Williamson as well. Okay, so that's basically all the points I wanted to mention. So just for the final few minutes then, because as much as I would like to stay on this forever, we should wrap it up soon because I need to get some sleep. And to be honest, I want to rewatch the episode so I can theorise a bit more. Oh, I've completely lost where I was in the chat. Oh, dearie dear. Maybe I'll just start from the bottom and work my way up. Funtime Foxy, it's very possible that could happen in real life, trying to prolong human life or upload human consciousness into a computer. What's that referring to? I've no idea. Okay, right, I'm getting a bit tired now, to be honest. So I think it's best we leave it there. Sorry if I didn't get a chance to respond to your message. I hope I've responded to at least one of every person's message. But this will hopefully all save once I've ended the stream. So I'll try and look back afterwards. So I'll see them at least, but it's just I won't be able to respond to them live. Any final things to respond to? Nope. Okay. Right. Yeah, so it's past, so we might as well leave it there. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning into this live discussion. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a like, as it really does mean a lot to me, and it encourages me to keep this up for the full series. If that's what you want, I will gladly do it. But yes, I hope you enjoyed the Halloween apocalypse. I hope you're just as intrigued as I am to get answers to all of these questions that have been presented to us. Have fun rewatching the episode if that's what you spend today doing. I know I will certainly do that. And I will hopefully see you next week for War of the Sontarans. Can't wait. Have a good evening, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.